Justin Lawrence.
Hey.
First time I'd seen him.
Hey, now, this is back to back. You mentioned that yesterday. Okay.
I talked to him today.
Great.
I talked to Ian Desmond.
How'd he do? How'd Lawrence
great.
do?
Very good.
Okay, great.
I talked to Ian Desmond about a right-hander facing
A guy like
side
that.
armor with how much velocity Ian was really good about. The question I have for you is, it's an unconventional delivery, certainly, but
Sure.
where does a side armor generate that kind of
That's
velocity?
just, I think, velocity a lot of times is the natural gift.
Okay.
Right? I think it's sort of like speed, right? It's, I think you're sort of built to run. You're built to throw. And a lot of it's natural. Now, a lot of it, the question is it nurture or nature, right? The million-dollar question of anything athletic. But in his case, I think, it really didn't show up here until the last couple of years for whatever reason. I think it was in there. I know that, as a high school player, a college player, he sort of varied his arm slot and so forth. But, I guess you could say he's a little bit of a late bloomer. Velocity-wise, it's rare that this jump happens, but we have seen it. But it's just a natural gift. Now, I've talked to him. We've met. We've had some discussions about him. Coming on the scene here the last year and a half to make this happen. Hopefully in the future. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. And there's still some things to do as far as developmental things in his game that he has to clean up. But a lot of times you cannot deny the gift of velocity and really the gift from that angle to have velocity.
He mentioned to me that he's a fastball slider guy,
right?
But he mentioned to me he's particularly against lefties, he's at least starting to try to work on a change,
right?
But he said getting an effective, reliable changeup with that arm angle is not an easy thing to do.
Takes time. Yeah, it does. You look at, I played, 7 seasons with one of the great submarine pitchers of all time, Dan Quisenberry. A little bit of Gene Garber in there too in that frame. But changeup from any arm angle. It's all feel. It's ultimately the biggest. I wouldn't say hurdle or challenge is to throw it in a big league game in the most critical of times and feel comfortable and have confidence in the pitch. And that doesn't happen overnight. So, he continues to work on his fastball command. He has seems like a nice ability to spin the ball. But, the other component is, just, work on the changeup. And who's been sort of instrumental here in the last number of months or half a year is Steve Reed with him. I don't know whether he mentioned that, but Darren Holmes, who played with Reeder, and actually who I played with Reeder too, who lives in Colorado. I think he's been involved a little bit with Justin too. So you can sort of follow up with that, and because Reeder was sort of down here, but he didn't pitch with the velocity that Justin has. But there's some similarities to to talk about, right, and to cross-reference a guy who's been there.
Does he run to the C-shot?
Yeah, there's anybody from down there is
I think Reeder came down during the fall league or something.
Yeah. And I know that they've been in contact a little bit.
I just never seen him throw. I was very impressed.
Yeah. Well, I saw him in the fall league.
Yeah.
When I came down here, Nevin, Hilliard, Lawrence. We had another lefty who was in minor league camp. Josh Fuentes, Nicorette. No, I think it was Horacek.
Horacek,
Yeah.
Horacek.
Horacek, however,
Kid from Denver. Right?
Yeah, who was with the Orioles, I believe, maybe. But he was being talked about a lot in the fall league.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Castellani, I guess we'll get to see him today.
Yeah.
You see a lot of tools there. A guy that I think is even throwing some bullpens with Scherzer. What is next for him? What is it that's going to kind of bridge some of the.
You know, I think the,
performance
you know, I think there's, you know, just the, you know, the overall consistency, you know, that makes a good pitcher. I mean, start with the delivery, you know, repeat the delivery, be consistent with his mechanics. You know, take it the next step, be consistent with his, you know, with his pitches, you know, to command control. A little farther, you know, control counts, be in good counts. You know, pitch aggressive, you know, the ball strike ratio, you know, all the things we talk about. I mean, and we've seen that in spurts as a minor leaguer. He's always been, you know, one of the younger players in every league that he's played in. So, you know, that is, you know, something that we keep in mind. You know, I think organizationally we've pushed him a little bit, right? Because of the talent and because we think that he can handle it. So, you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, continue to watch his development.
I think later in the fall league, he had a couple of good outings. It was up and down.
Sure.
In the fall league. Like 3 of his last.
Yeah, I think I saw one of them. He went 5 innings. You know, did it. You know, pitch well.
I think he went 5 and 3 of his last 4 and gave up like 2 runs.
Yeah.
And then the one in the middle that
Yeah.
kind of.
But you know, you'll see the fastball, you know, in the low 90s. You'll see, you know, a couple different breaking pitches, change up. You know, he's starting to move the ball around a little bit. So he's doing some good work.
He was saying that he thought part of his problem was that they were getting him too far over the top because he's got a little bit of a natural.
Yeah, I think there's a natural slot that everybody has,
Yeah,
and it's really tough to change your natural arm slot. And I think, you know, we've maybe, you know, as a group, as pitching guys, tried to, you know, a little higher, but you got to throw where you naturally throw
I
from.
almost got the feeling he's started to do it on his own because he saw
Yeah.
everybody else. And
Yeah, and he wanted a different shape on the breaking ball. Be, you know, and you can do that by, you know, raising your arm. You know, you can't do that.
But they got him back.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got him back because the guy that you had down there as a pitching coach had been his pitching coach
Yeah.
at the lower level. So.
Daryl Scott's done a nice job with them, and Daryl lives down here. So Daryl does great work with all our guys who live down here. So, but you know, he was one of the guys that, you know, when I got this job that, you know, they talked about as a, you know, he was young, high school drafted. So.
Your buddy is double backing on Trevor. Everything good with?
Yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, he's going to play tomorrow. He'll go through activities today. He's good.
Who's Charlie jump in?
Charlie will jump in. You know, probably, potentially tomorrow. Probably safer bet. Probably. Yeah. He won't go out tomorrow to surprise. Tuesday or Wednesday, he'll be back in there. Yeah.
With Bill Lake, what do you feel that kind of went wrong for him, and how did he hit the reset button?
Yeah. Well, you know, it got off to, you know, a tough start right away. Right, you get hit with a pitch, or he broke his hand, broke his wrist. You know, he's in a cast most of spring training, and then, you know, our need was to, you know, get him on the club. Right, we needed him, so we sort of forced it a little bit at the end. You know, tried to get him as many at bats as possible. You know, he was feeling good. And really looking back on it, you know, he probably wasn't quite ready physically. Start the season as a you know, bench or role player, you pinch hit, and you know, got off to a tough start. Tried to dig himself out of it. The harder he tried, the worse it got, and it just sort of compounded itself. So, I think with Pat, you know, we turned the page on last year. That's the first thing that has to happen. And I think, you know, we talked this morning, and he feels as though he's ready to, you know, new year, new season, new results, which is awesome. So turn the page, which you hope a player does, and realize the player you can be. You know, get back to, you know, what he does best, right? Complete player, plays defense, a little bit of pop. You know, use the middle of the field. You know, all the things that we saw in 17. So he, you know, he feels as though he's there. But again, he also knows that it's a performance game, that he has to do it. So, but as far as the mental toughness aspect, he's one of our best.
Anything else?
From a mental toughness standpoint, like with pitchers that come back down, like talking with Wade Davis, he's like looking forward to the challenge at Coors Field this year
Right.
as opposed. Do you think? I mean, you guys have kind of created a mindset with these guys.
Yeah, I mean that's for me. That was something that I talked a lot about with Jeff, and early on about the type of players we need. Especially in altitude and the physical nature of it, and probably more so with the pitchers. To realize what ultimately is important, and that is to perform, do well, to help your team win, regardless of what might happen in a Colorado game, in a Denver game. And ultimately, those guys who just want to out-pitch and outplay the other team, let's win the game, and have a less emphasis on some of the statistical numbers that might be behind a pitcher's name.
PD Estacio said the key to pitching at Coors Field is not giving up the next run.
Oh, I like that one. Don't give up the next run. I like it.
So you can't do anything about the one you give up.
Yeah, I like it. All right, you guys,
All right,
great.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
bud.
Thank you.